Welcome back to the podcast. I am so glad that you have taken the time to join me today. I'm Lindsay, your coach, your guide, and I'm hoping that you consider me part of the team helping you to feel good AF again. We're heading into the holidays, and this is the season when so many women start to say, I'll start after Thanksgiving, or I'll make it my New Year's resolution to quit drinking. This was me. This leads into the I'm not ready, if you listen to the last episode, mindset that we can stay really stuck in. I want you to know, what if you were to think of this as not starting over? What if you have simply outgrown the way that you've been trying to quit drinking? What if you looked at it as my approach isn't working in the way I wanted or the way I expected it to, and it's time to pivot. I need to pivot, just like you might do at work. You have expected results that you're trying to achieve, and weekly you have checkpoints to see how your actions are generating the results that you're expecting to achieve. And some weeks, the data just is not showing the results. So what do? We pivot, we pull new levers, we bring in new team members, we change our approach to get the desired result. So in this episode, we're going to talk about how past attempts to quit drinking were not failures. They were just information for you. And I'm going to share how my own epic flop one Christmas Eve ended up being the first real step in me finding what worked. It didn't happen right away after that, but I'm going to show you why doing it differently is exactly what will make it stick this time. So take a deep breath. You've landed. You don't just have to do this the way everyone else says you should. And let's find the path that actually fits you, because we are all individuals here. This is the thing. You don't have to do it one way because it's been around the longest. You can quit drinking and it can feel really good. Not that every moment is going to feel good, but I promise you, you can do this in a way that makes you feel proud. First of all, it's November. We're in the holiday season. It's on its way. It's right around the corner if you're not in it already. This is the time that the I'll start later story can get really loud. And this is like the mental negotiation that we go through so much. It's after the parties, after the travel, after things slow down. This is when the I will start in January piece can get really solidified. We can cement that in right now, but I want you to know that you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait. Holidays are charged with nostalgia, social pressure, and a lot of these things involve drinking. And some of them involved things that we actually don't want to deal with, and so we drink to not deal with them. When you look back at most holidays, you picture the beautiful wine glasses on the table, the drinks around the fireplace after dinner, or, whatever the things are, mimosas in the morning, all of these things that are just old traditions, or they might feel nostalgic. But what I really want to challenge you to get to, and I'm going to share my epic story about this, which maybe if you've been around for a while, you maybe have heard it or heard bits and pieces of it. But think about what really ended up happening because of alcohol, and how maybe the moment that you remember that is reinforcing that belief that you have to drink on Christmas, or you have to drink on Thanksgiving, or you have to drink at the holiday party, those things that are reinforcing, our brain remembers that because that's what we've done. That's the familiar. But what it's not considering is the carnage that happened after, or the fact that it wasn't just one mimosa at a holiday brunch. It was like 4. And then it was going home and, spending the afternoon on the couch sipping on wine speaking from experience. That's how it used to go for me. And then feeling like garbage the next day, or, maybe yelling at your husband for really no reason, things like this. Like, think about what happened after that maybe beautiful temporary moment where that alcohol was involved. And also through that, in those memories, the ones that were less desirable, those are the things that you want relief from. You're actually craving distance from those moments, the moments where you said you were just going to have a couple of drinks at the holiday party, but then you drank too much and you said something really awful to one of your coworkers, and now that relationship is awkward. Or maybe you said that you were going out for a few drinks after work with some of the girls. You were so excited. It's the holidays. There's a beautiful peppermint martini special at your favorite local place near the office. But then it turned into having 2 or 3 of those. And then a broken promise to your husband that you said you were going to be home for dinner, but the next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock at night and you're needing to take an Uber home. Also, speaking from experience, that was something that happened to me more than once. So there's this nostalgia, there's these expectations. And when we don't look at what happens after the temporary relief or the temporary fun that alcohol gives, then we reinforce the belief that we need it. And this has us push it off, and it doesn't protect us. It also doesn't get us to a point where we're reaching our goals. It just delays what we're really craving. I want to offer you this. What if this holiday season could be the one where you finally feel proud, where you don't feel anxious and panicked and chaotic, where you're not worried about what your mother-in-law is going to say, worry about like Christmas morning when you drank too much on Christmas Eve. And I'm going to tell you about Christmases that I ruined because of my drinking. November of 2018, I read this US Thanksgiving weekend, A Happier Hour by Rebecca Weller. And you know that she was a guest on the podcast a while back, episode 20. You can catch the episode. She was definitely the woman who kickstarted my journey. Every page, she was just like me. And so her books she wrote 3 books, actually. The first one was A Happier Hour. Those are going to be linked in the show notes for you if you want to check them out. But I read this book within, a day and a half on Thanksgiving. And I decided I am going to take a 30-day break. And I was really excited about it. And actually a coworker of mine, she read the book the same weekend. She finished it before me, and I had gotten back from my in-laws that weekend, and she started her break. She texted me. I was already 2 glasses of wine in. My husband and I had just sat down to watch a movie, and she texted me saying she wasn't drinking that night. It was the Friday after Thanksgiving. And I was like, what? It's the day after Thanksgiving and you're not drinking? I couldn't believe it. And she said, no, I finished A Happier Hour. I'm starting a 30-day break. And I thought, oh my God, I have to do this too. I had already been drinking that day, so I started my break the next day. I had my plan. I was very optimistic. I was very motivated by reading Rebecca Weller's book. And in her book, she takes a 100-day break. And in my mind, I wasn't ready for something like that. See, there's those words. I wasn't ready. I probably could have done it if I'd had the right mindset. But I couldn't see it in that moment. I created my rules. I created a schedule. I planned out what my December was going to look like, what those next 30 days was going to look like. And I had a business trip in that time. I spent a week in Washington, D.C. at a training. I had 2 big holiday parties that we went to every year that were very alcohol focused. And obviously I had Christmas coming. Christmas was included in this 30 days. And so we were planning to visit my mother in Denver area for Christmas that week and go to New York to visit my husband's family. So we had planned a 10-day trip. And so I was just thinking to myself, good God, I don't know how I'm going to do that part, but I'm going to try. The other thing that I think it's an important detail of this story is that The Christmas Eve was my birthday, and it was my 40th birthday. And I remember just thinking, I am going to spend my 40th birthday alcohol free. Now, I can't remember what day 30 was. I think it was the day after Christmas, right around there. And so we land in Denver and we spend the day with my family. I don't know, maybe the 23rd we got there, maybe the 22nd. I know that I was there for a couple of days where I didn't drink alcohol. And I was so proud of myself. I had spent time with my brothers. I had spent time with my mom. I had seen a couple of other family members. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've done it. And not to mention, I did the airport trip. So at this point, I had been in the airport 3 times without drinking because I had my earlier business trip in December. So I was just thinking that, gosh, I am so strong. This is so amazing. And then on Christmas Eve, my 40th birthday, my brothers said, hey, we're going to come and get you. We're going to go out for drinks or lunch or whatever. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I immediately felt weak. I immediately felt like I'm going to drink today. And as soon as that entered my mind, it was like I had just made the decision and I didn't want to look back. And so we went out and I had a couple of beers with my brothers. And then as soon as that was over, I picked up a bunch of wine and we headed to my mom's for Christmas Eve festivities. I drank so much. And leading up to that, I had promised my mom that I would make Christmas dinner. I had said that I would do all of the cooking, all of the cleaning, all the organizing, because my mother had just a few weeks before that started chemotherapy and she really couldn't host on her own. She really needed our help. And so I had just devastated myself. And I woke up on Christmas morning and I picked up the Quit Lit book that I had brought with me because I wanted to make sure that I was reading Quit Lit, and I'd had a couple of podcasts saved and an audiobook. Like I really wanted to make sure that I was continuing being inspired and staying motivated while I was on this trip. And I just absolutely hated myself on Christmas morning. And I had to drag myself to my mother's and I had to start cooking this dinner. And I was so sick and I was so angry that I barely even felt like being around people. And my brothers really pitched in and helped. And my husband, of course, was so kind and told me not to beat myself up, which is what I tell women now. Have compassion for yourself. And he was right. It was my 40th birthday. I had never done a birthday in my adult life alcohol free. So why was I expecting that to be easy? I really just I had to move on, but I had woken up that morning on Christmas and really convinced myself that I had failed at this, which reinforced the belief that I wasn't going to be able to quit drinking. And the next day I just drank and I didn't try to not drink. I kind of said, okay, well, my break's over. Now I'm letting this ride. I didn't have the skills or the tools to start again, to let that be just a slip and a one-time thing so that I could carry on with my journey. I really didn't. And so what I didn't realize at the time was that it wasn't this big epic failing. It was just a lesson. It was a reminder as to why I was doing this, why I wanted to explore living an alcohol-free life. And so it also showed me exactly where my triggers lived. I often call this feeling, activated to drink. And so it was around this celebration, belonging, nostalgia, spending my birthday with my brothers. It was Christmas Eve, all these things, this pressure to be fun, to have fun. And it also showed me that I needed tools. I needed a method that was going to fit me, not the version of sobriety that I had seen everyone else doing, not going to AA meetings that wasn't going to me. work for me. I had been to an AA meeting many, many years ago, and I already knew that it wasn't designed for somebody like me. And at this time, I was really holding on to Rebecca Weller, her book, because that was proof to me that there were other ways to quit drinking. And when I say that, I just mean here's a woman who is so much like me, and she did it. So I have to be able to do this. And that's when I started to understand that something powerful was about to change. Change didn't have to equal how everyone else, that's in air quotes, was doing it. And it also didn't mean that I had to label myself. I had to get out of my head that people who some I didn't even know or care about or recognize, they were going to think that I had a problem with alcohol. But honestly, that's nobody's business. And if people are going to label you, that is on them, not you. It's actually not even about you at all. It's about them and their knowledge. So let me introduce this concept that you haven't failed. You've outgrown the things that you've been trying. Past attempts, like my first 30, but didn't quite make it to day 30 day break, were just stepping stones. They were you building the version of yourself that you are trying to become. Because every single break is you gaining more information and more confidence that you can get there, even though when you have a slip, it feels like you've just burned it all down. You really haven't. It's all about this break, whether it's one day, whether it's 30 days, whether it's 100 days. That is you collecting data about what didn't align with your values or your lifestyle. And so, like, I very quickly knew that AA did not align with my values or my lifestyle. And so that one I went to, I experimented with, I read a fair amount of the big book. I had a handful of coworkers that were pretty open about the fact that they were very involved in AA and that they quit drinking from AA. I talked with all of them about their experience. I really leaned into that to learn as much as I could. And I went to one meeting and I just said, yeah, this isn't going to work for me. And that's okay. I want you to know also that that's okay. The beauty of it being 2025 and is that there are a lot of ways to get sober now. You don't have to do it just because that one's been around the longest or because so many people might say that that's what you need to do. You don't have to do it. What's important is to look at what aligns with your values and your lifestyle. So the other thing that I really figured out first from the time that I took that first break into, I had kind of a spiral after that for a few months, and then I dusted myself off and started to focus again, was that I had evolved. And I knew that another break of me white knuckling wasn't going to work. And just like I needed, you need a new strategy. You haven't lost the drive. You haven't given up. Obviously, you're listening to this, so you haven't given up. You need a new strategy that is going to work. If some of the other things that you've heard aren't resonating with you, what I want you to know is like, keep listening for the things that do resonate with you and follow that path because that is going to lead you to success. And that's applicable wherever you are in your journey. And it might change as you move through the journey because you're not afraid to fail. I already know that you're not afraid to fail. We fail at lots of things, especially strong, ambitious, successful women like you and like me. We know that failure is part of success. And so remember that as you're doing this, because I know that you're not afraid to fail. You're afraid of repeating the wrong plan. You're afraid that doing the thing again is going to lead to the same results because you know that that's what happens. So when you know something isn't working for you, you have to pivot. And don't be afraid of the new thing, because even if it doesn't work out, we try lots of things that don't work. But for some reason, this hurts more because of the amount of shame and the amount of, there's just so much on the line when we're trying to quit drinking. Those things are our pride and the promises that we make to ourselves. And so it's just like we reach a point where we're just done being mad at ourselves and we're so sick of it. And so that's why it's easier to stay where you are with alcohol, because at least you know what's going to happen, versus trying again and then having something not work and trying again and having something not work. That's not you, by the way. That's alcohol doing its job. This is a chemical thing that happens when we drink. It has nothing to do with you. Okay. Let's talk about why that fear feels so strong and how your brain actually learns from it. Because I love to introduce a little bit of science here. I don't want you to think I'm just spewing out my own opinions. I fact check this stuff, and I want you to know that I do my research here. When you think about trying again after something didn't work, your brain is going to pull up emotional memories. And these are discomfort, maybe embarrassment, disappointment, shame. And those memories trigger a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is responsible for emotional learning and protection. It sends a signal that says, let's avoid that pain. Your brain predicts that trying again is going to feel bad, so it convinces you to stay put. It's not being lazy, it's protection. You're not even procrastinating. You're just trying to protect yourself. It feels safer. But here's a little bit of a twist. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans and sets goals, can override that fear by introducing new evidence, new experiences that end differently. Each time you take a new approach, you weaken the old emotional association and you strengthen the new one. Neuroplasticity in action. You're literally teaching your brain that change isn't dangerous. It's doable. If your brain is capable of learning new safety signals, the question becomes, what approach actually makes it feel safe to change? There's no one way to do this. I want to give you permission, not that you need it, but I want to validate you and give you permission that you can do it differently. So, for many years, many decades, there was one path, AA. And for many, AA has been a lifeline. If it didn't feel like home to you, like it didn't for me, it just didn't align with my values, that doesn't mean that you failed at quitting drinking. It doesn't mean that you messed up AA. It just doesn't mean that. It just means that it didn't work for you and you need a different approach. It's okay. There is a very wide spectrum of how you can get sober today. There's therapy, there's neuroscience, there's self-paced programs, there's simply finding the right community, there's coaching, there's inpatient, there's outpatient, a wide variety of things. And it's so amazing that we live in a time where all of these resources are available to us. There are free resources, there are paid resources, a whole team that you can create for yourself. And when your approach aligns with who you are, that is what is going to drive change and progress in your journey. You have to think about what your values are, what's important to you. And for me, I'm very results driven. So when I take an action and I see immediate results, I am like, yes, give me more. I want more of that. I am going to keep pulling that lever, that action. When I take an action and I don't see the results that I want, I don't do that action anymore. You have to build an approach that aligns with the version of you that you want to become. How can you build change into your life that feels good? So congruence fuels follow through. Here's what I mean by this. You're living in a certain way now, and you want to be living in a different way. Right now, your life might look like drinking every day, drinking to relieve stress, unable to see yourself not drinking in certain scenarios, unable to feel ready. These might be things that are going through your mind, but you want to be the woman who wakes up every day proud of herself, has energy, is sharp as a freaking tack when she walks into the office. When you walk into a meeting, you know exactly what you're going to say. You feel confident saying it, and your audience is captive. Your team looks at you as a leader. That's what you want. You want to sustain that energy throughout the workday and come home to your family and still have energy to give them and receive theirs so that you're present with them at the end of the night. So your actions need to match that identity, that version of you that you are working to become. And you're more than capable of becoming her. I know you are, because trust me, my actions did not used to match the identity that I wanted. And once I started changing those actions, everything started to fall into place. I started to actually be the woman that I wanted to become. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to become her anymore because I am her. God, this feels friggin' amazing. So your brain rewards you with dopamine every time you do something that is aligned with how you want to be living. And that's why this time will feel easier, because you're not doing things out of sheer willpower. You're doing them because they are what you want. And you just have to reinforce that to your brain. You just have to tell your brain, no, brain, this is what I want. And your brain's going to catch up. It's going to get along for the ride, but that takes repetition. That's another episode. It's about saying, these are the things that are important to me. These are my values. This is how I want to be living. And I can see that these actions that I'm currently doing, AKA drinking on the couch every day after work, pouring the glass of wine without even thinking about it, those actions are preventing me from living in alignment with how I want to be living. And trust me, this was me too. This was all of the women who sign up to work with me, they're going through this. It's also, while you're making these changes, you're in like a little identity crisis. It's like you are letting go of the old version of yourself, and there's so many layers of her that you want to keep, and then there's so many layers of her that you're just like done with, and you're like, get out of here. And you haven't fully stepped into this new version of yourself. You can see her, you know what she looks and feels like every day, but you're not comfortable in her yet. And that's the awkward part. That's the beauty about doing work with me, is we get you more comfortable with her and feeling confident inside this new version of yourself that you're building. Because at times it feels really wobbly. And you're going to start to feel more calm instead of conflicted. You're going to notice how proud you are of yourself when you're consistent. And that consistency starts to actually feel natural. It doesn't feel forced anymore. You're not like waking up and forcing yourself to go on the walk and listen to the podcast, or wake up and force yourself to, I don't know, text the online community inside Feel Good AF. You're actually like wanting to do it because you're wanting that connection. You're wanting to engage. You're excited to wake up another day alcohol-free, compounding on feeling more and more proud of yourself. That's what happens when you enter my world. We change everything so that your actions feel like they are truly aligned with the woman that you want to be. And you start to shed those old actions. You have no use for them anymore. And there's a little awkwardness around that at first, but it's going to start to feel good because, again, consistency will make it feel natural instead of forced. That's what we build inside Feel Good AF. And this is whether you're in my group program or my one-on-one private container. It's a safe structure and strategy. The women who join me aren't starting from zero. They're evolving beyond what hasn't worked for them. I really lean into you so that you can explore what your core values are. From there, we design a method that fits your reality. You don't sign up for my program and there's a roadmap that you have to download and start checking off boxes. There's not a rule book that you just start following. We create it together so that it is hyper specific to your life. And that's why so many successful women hire me, because I've walked this walk, I've done it, and I can pick apart their life in 5 minutes. I can listen to you for 10 minutes, and within 5 minutes, we're going to have a plan that feels really good. You're going to learn how to trust yourself again and handle social situations when you're home alone, situations where the wine witch feels so loud, but you're going to know exactly what to do because you're going to be creating a lifestyle that feels good. And this is the kind of support that makes your success inevitable. If this conversation is really striking a chord and making you feel a little warm, this might be your moment to do something different. Maybe you need to pivot your approach because what you've been doing isn't really yielding the results, or it doesn't feel good. And you've tried before. So what that tells me is that you haven't given up on yourself. You're just ready for a new approach that's going to work for you because it resonates with you. I want you to really think about all of your resources right now. Who are you listening to? What are you reading that resonates the most so that you can bring that in as an approach to pivot on? And if you're ready to find an approach that fits who you are today, make your bold move. You can send me a message. If I resonate with you, if you're like, Lindsay, yes, I want to work with you, book a free discovery call with me, and we'll talk about exactly what that looks like in your life. We'll walk through where you're at, what hasn't worked for you, and what we can build together that finally does. And as you head into this holiday season, I want you to remember this, because you know that I love giving you an assignment. Act as an observer of yourself. That's what this is. You need to collect information in order to make the decision of how you're going to proceed. What are your thoughts when the craving comes up to drink? What are you thinking about when you look at a holiday party that's right around the corner? What thoughts generate? How do you want to show up around alcohol at these events? Think about those things, because you don't have to wait until the holidays are over. You don't have to say, I'm going to start tomorrow and then have it be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can start today. In fact, you've already been starting because you're listening to this. This isn't like day one of your journey. You're well into your journey if you're listening to this podcast. You just have to decide that, you know what, this time I'm going to do something different. It gets to be different because you've outgrown the way that you've been trying. And so step into this new version of you, the one who's ready to feel so effing good, truly good, alcohol free, because she gets to do this work. And yeah, maybe you have a slip. Maybe you end up drinking on Thanksgiving. Maybe you end up just like me, drinking on Christmas Eve, your birthday that you said you weren't going to drink on. It's okay. These are slips. These are information. These are how you remind yourself of why you're doing this work, and then you get to move forward with a team. Okay, if you want that team to be me and the women in my group who are doing this work actively now during the holidays, send me a message, set up a discovery call. If this episode warmed you up a little bit, I hope that you'll rate it and that you'll share it. Share it with a friend. Don't be afraid to tell a friend that you want to evaluate your relationship with alcohol, because I am grateful AF that I had a friend that did that. I don't even know when I would have ever actually taken my relationship with alcohol seriously if my friend hadn't shared that book with me. It took me a long time to really get to that last day one after I read that book, but it was really the beginning. So just change your approach. Don't wait. Rate this episode, subscribe to the podcast if you don't want to miss future episodes, and send me a message. I love you. I believe in you. I absolutely know that you can get to the other side of alcohol. You just need to pivot. I'll see you next week.